Welcome back again, everybody, for another phenomenal update with the genius Linda Wright. Now, Linda's been picking her way through statutory instrument 814, and it keeps giving and giving and giving to us, this statutory instrument. Today's episode, we're looking at the new Class M. Yes, we thought Class M was dead, but long live Class M. There is a new Class M. Brilliant. Again, to have you with us as usual, Linda. And before I sort of hand over to you, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to a couple of our viewers. Now, I'm just going to read out here a couple of the comments that have come in to us about previous videos. And this one here is from Richard. And Richard said, Linda, I love your videos. I love your openness and your down-to-earth plain speaking. So congratulations, Linda. Again, here coming in from Samantha, I've heard Linda speak before at an event, and I love her honesty. Your video together is great. Please keep them coming. So thank you, Richard and Samantha, for that wonderful feedback. We truly appreciate it. Linda, you now have a big step to climb to keep meeting Richard and Samantha's expectations. Class M, where are we?
Yeah, so there's absolutely no pressure whatsoever, is there? Well,
None.
A lot of people, now don't let's get this confused. There is an old Class M that is going to expire on the 31st of July. So if you, and I've got an application to submit, if you are going to be submitting under the old Class M, you've only got a limited time period now to do that. So 31st of July, the old Class M will die, but it's not being completely superseded by Class MA. It's being, they're getting the defibrillators out and they're boom, and it's going to be a new Class M. So they're changing it to put in the new Class M that will start as of the 1st of August. They're putting all of the stuff in here that is not going to be in the Class MA. That's the best way that I can describe it.
Okay, so Linda, you know, you say they're not, that a lot of things have been superseded because they've moved into a use Class E, which has Class MA applied to it. Now, what we're referring to for the audience out there is Part 3, Schedule 2, Paragraph 15 of Statutory Instrument 814, which details the new Class M. And it's all about creation of dwelling houses for some properties that previously had no permitted development rights. Now, do you want to explain what those properties are, Linda?
That's a perfect way of describing it. Brilliant, Andrew, thank you. So these properties that you might not have had a chance of doing anything with, well, actually some of them you might have, but they've all been brought together in one use class, now in one class. Now, I just want to clarify, when we're talking about Class E and we're talking about Class M, right? Use Class E is in the use classes order, and as we all know from the media headlines, it hadn't been changed for 30 odd years. It's now been changed, and lots of short.
We did a video on that, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We did a video on this a little while ago now.
A year ago.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. How time flies when you're having fun. So we're talking about use classes order, use Class E. So don't go, I'm a bit worried that some people might go into the general permitted development order that's 180 odd pages looking for Class E, because you will find several Class E's in there, but just not the one. So Class E, we're talking about use classes order, and Class M, which is what we're talking about now, is the general permitted development order.
So effectively, we've got a use class and a planning class, just to help the audience understand. And government being government keeps things simple. It uses a lettering system for both that duplicates in both different acts.
Well done, well done. Hats off to government.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I just wanted to identify that because I suddenly, you know, sometimes you think about these things, usually about 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm staring at the ceiling and I can't sleep. And I suddenly thought, oh my God, there's a class E in the GPDO. So if people go, I don't know what this woman's talking about, I can't find it. So the general permitted development order does what it says on the tin for almost 200 pages now, because government keep adding things to it, just short of 200 pages. It gives you all of the permitted development rights. So it gives you the permitted development right at the top, but then underneath it says what's not permitted. So it's kind of, it's a misnomer to call it the permitted development right order, because it tells you, yeah, it gives you 2 lines of what's permitted and then 3 pages of what's not. So let's go, I shall stop waffling, but use class E and general permitted development order classes, entirely different pieces of legislation. So if you are looking to, as Andrew says, if you are an insomniac and you're looking to, then that's what you need to look at, 2 separate pieces of legislation. Let's talk about Class M and what has now been included within the new Class M as of 1st of August 2021. So it's development consisting of change of use. So it's about changing the use of properties to dwelling houses. And this now includes, this specific class will include a laundrette, a betting office, a payday loan shop, and a hot food takeaway. So all of those uses, because they're not included within use class E, the shops and everything that class MA refers to. So all of these uses that might have been sui generis are now included specifically, and it's called the new class M is called certain uses to dwelling houses, and it's those 4 uses: laundrette, betting office, payday loan shop, and hot food takeaway. And it's conversion of those uses into dwelling houses, and that's class M.
So that's a really interesting one there. Previously, properties which were off limits for permitted development rights, and to be fair, you know, a betting office, the council government wanted to control people, say, living above a payday loan shop or a betting office. Hot food takeaway, it's not necessarily the best of places to live, which is why there was no permitted development there. And again, a laundrette, I mean, well, I'm just smelling us washing our money and a horse chasing a pizza or a kebab on the end of a stick here. They were not the most desirable of places, according to council, to live above.
Yeah.
But what they've done is included them in a new use class, new permitted development class M,
yeah,
for you to apply conversions. Now, that probably leaves our audience out there with lots and lots of questions. Why, how, and more to the point, what are the rules? Linda, is there a quick, short summary guide that we can offer our audience, or shall we get them to drop some comments below what they would hope that the rules are?
Well, you know, I like to do one of my colourful 1-page sheets. And of course, this one is no exception. But if you've got anything specifically that you are confused about, honestly, that is what we are here to do. And I think we're getting so many questions now that I think at some point next week, we may be doing a Q&A video session. So if you have got questions, I know I've had a few emailed to me, and I know Andrew's had some as well, but please, if you've got any questions and you think that we can answer them in this video, we've got to be a bit careful with site specifics, but if you're not clear on something, and I've not made it clear, we've not helped you to understand, then please let us know, because it can only improve what we're doing with these videos. So class M, one of the things that this does now and will now on the 1st of August include, it's including building operations reasonably necessary to convert the building. Now, That's not included in Class MA, which we'll talk about on a separate video, but that is something, and it does specify it's a use fully within Class C3 dwelling houses. So one of the things that this is not there to do is for you to convert and use as an HMO. So if you convert, and it's not about using it and then getting the benefit of permitted development rights if you use it as a house, it specifically says to convert the building to Class C3 dwelling houses.
Absolutely, and I think that's important. It's not a C1 serviced accommodation. It is not a C4 HMO. It is a C3 dwelling house. Now that could be a flat or it could be a house. Now, you used a word there, and I'm going to pick you up on that word. Development reasonable to create a C3 dwelling house. So are they basically saying, if we have a shop and there's not enough windows in that shop to bring in natural light, for example, which is one of the criteria to qualify on, that we don't have to apply for planning permission, we can include that in this application because it's reasonable. Yeah,
it does sound like that is what is being said here. Yes, creating, I don't know, maybe a rear fire escape or an access stair outside, that might be considered to be reasonable. But again, all of this central government legislation is going to be at the interpretation of each local council, and as we know, there's no consistency across the board, so it's all going to be at the interpretation. So it's what is reasonable, and that will be at the behest of each local planning authority. Some might say windows are reasonable. Well, you've got to comply with adequate levels of natural light, so yeah, but then if you open a window up, does that if you put it in a side and you're facing another window next door, is that going to impact on privacy? So again, it's this, you know, very open to interpretation wording, reasonably necessary.
Linda, can I just pick up there? I felt a bit of a jibe there. Different local authorities will interpret things in their own way. Are we having a go at Windsor and Maidenhead by any chance?
Oh no, I've got to stop. I'm going to get sued. I've got to stop mentioning. No, there's a, you know, honestly.
I'm the one that used those words.
Yeah. There, honestly, lots of every single different authority will have their foibles, and they will do things that you look and you think, what? No. I mean, if you want to, Wirral had one particular case where the planning officer had completely misread their own policy. Refused that, went to appeal. The inspector said, no, you're right, they have misread it, and got plan. But you see, that then takes the best part of a year to get that. And I don't really agree with the planning system to be determined by planning appeal. It's not the right way to do it. Planning authorities should know how to read their own policies, and they should know how to read central legislation. The majority do. There are a few that sort of get it a bit confused, but then planning is confusing. That's why we're here.
I think I remember a TV program called That's Life with a lady called Esther Ranson.
Yes.
And they had an award for Jobsworth of the Week.
Yeah.
We should have an award for Planning Officer of the Week. If you've got a case where you've had a planning officer make a complete and utter hash of your application, send us the details in the comments below.
I'm not going to start naming names. I will name and shame councils generally, but no, poor planning officers that, you know, seriously.
Well, let's name and shame the councils below.
Yeah. I'll name and shame councils, but not individual planning officers. That's not fair. That would start to look like bullying and trolling online, and I am not doing that.
Certainly neither am I. I mean, this is more to try and encourage councils to have commonality of policy in line with government policy.
Unfortunately, lots of councils have planning committees. They have elected members who each have their own opinion of planning as well. And they also have opinions as to whether they will allow something or won't allow something. And if something goes to planning committee, they are the final decision makers in the council. So it's about the planning system. It's a difficult system to navigate.
That sounded to me like NIMBYism there.
Well,
yeah. Vested interests in the decision that's made.
Yeah.
That's not government policy either.
Well, anyhow, no, but it's the planning system.
Anyhow, Linda, I think we've shared with the audience the new Class M, which applies to laundrettes, which are in a sui generis category, betting offices, which could have been in an A2 or a sui generis, payday loan shops, which could have been an A2 or a sui generis, and a hot food takeaway that was an A5, all of which were excluded from the Class MA permitted development right within the GDPO 2015. I think that's a fantastic opportunity for our audience to go and seize.
Well, possibly. But as with all of these things, where it says development is permitted, it then goes to say development is not permitted. So in Class M, we still have these properties must have been in use on the 20th of March 2013, because this is when, now that's a long time now, that's 8 years. But what they're trying to look at is possibly established shops along shopping frontages, towns, and that, because it's all about what central government have said, flexibility and keeping the vitality of areas. Well, I'm not quite sure that keeping shopping frontages, turning shopping frontage into houses is going to keep the vitality of town centres, but at least there would be somebody in there and living there. Also, Class M retains must not exceed 150 square metres. And that is cumulative. So if you have changed another part of the building, and that's changed, and then, for example, 70 or 80 square metres have been changed already, and then you want to do more again, you have to add those two things together. So if it exceeds 150 square metres, you can't use the new Class M, and that was in the old Class M as well. You can't extend beyond the existing building. So this is not about extension. It's not about demolition and rebuild. You can't extend. You have to use the existing building. You can demolish a small part. If it's a tiny little bit and it's a partial demolition just to actually facilitate the use and the change, then that's fine. And it's Class C3 only. You can't do this in conservation areas. Now that is a big difference, because lots of these things, the prior approvals, you could do in conservation areas because it was the change of use of the interior. I'm not quite sure why they've put conservation areas in. Presumably it's because of the change in the ground floor, which is what we've seen in the other changes of use. So
I think it'll also be because this includes work reasonable to make it suitable for a dwelling house, which could mean adding windows in, which therefore you're changing the envelope of the building, which is why they've limited it.
Now, I think you're right, but under that same issue, then surely conservation areas would have been exempted in other, so it just doesn't make sense really. Site of special scientific interest, safety hazard area, military explosive storage, listed building, and a scheduled ancient monument. We know all of this. Lots of people are aware of this. You can't touch those. Now, you have to submit a prior approval application. We know that with Class M. What are the matters to be considered by the council when you submit your prior approval? Transport and highways impacts, that's nothing new. We know that with the old Class O. Land contamination, flooding, flooding can be a big one. You need to be careful with that. Adequate provision of services. Now, if it is perceived that, for example, you're converting a laundrette and there are no other laundrettes for miles. And if the council, and again, this is open to interpretation by the council, if the council perceive that the loss of that laundrette is important in that you've lost the provision of adequate services in that area, they can refuse it on that basis.
So would the same apply if they were removing a payday loan shop or a betting shop, if there's not another betting shop for a while?
Yeah.
Because I thought that was something they were trying to control and restrict and didn't like, payday loan shops and betting shops.
I suppose
I'm being devil's advocate, Linda.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I suppose to a certain extent, a betting office is a choice. It's not a necessity. Although there are some people out there who will say it's a necessity. I understand that. Washing your clothes and getting your clothes clean is a necessity, arguably, for some people. Payday loan shops, I don't know if there are areas where it is essential for people to get that. Hot food takeaway, not sure whether that's essential, but certainly a laundrette might be considered to be. But again,
you're telling me a Chinese or an Indian meal on a Friday night as a takeaway isn't essential in your diary?
Yeah, could be. I understand that. I'm not a great lover of takeaway food. I'm very suspicious of what's in it and who's especially in the pandemic, of who's
you can't go wrong.
No. So it's the adequate provision of those services, and if there's a reasonable prospect of that building being put to the same use again, then it's an opening there for the council to refuse it. If the shop has been empty for 3 years, then obviously there's no reasonable, and if it's been marketed, but they don't ask for marketing requirements. But if that is the case, then the council might refuse it. It gives them an in as to where they might refuse it. There's also design and external appearance of the building. That can be taken into account. And of course, our old friend that came in last year, adequate levels of natural light to all habitable rooms. That has to be proven to the council for them to, and again, unfortunately, as of the 6th of April this year, these properties will have to comply with nationally described space standards, because most of these things are not going to be converted to one single dwelling house. They're going to be converted to flats. So as we keep saying, nationally described space standards, absolute minimum 37 square meters with a shower room, 39 square meters with a full bathroom. And I was going to say the council with a prior approval have 56 days to determine the application. Now, as we've said before, this is kind of falling by the wayside. Councils are now asking for an extension of time. I'm not entirely sure that I would start writing in on day 57 and saying, "Oi, I claim my planning permission," because it's kind of you could. But it's not quite as strong as it was.
I've got a couple of clients, and one of them has had 2 extensions, which he agreed to, and the planning permission was subsequently granted, but conditional on X, Y, and Z extra items. And somebody else who had a problem with transport issues, and they granted the council an extension, and then they subsequently approved their development as well. So sometimes working with them gets you the results that you want, and it's quicker than going to appeal. But each one of those, I mean, if you're struggling, consult with Linda. She's an expert on this, and she will tell you tactically the right thing to do or not.
And finally, it bears saying a prior approval is just that. You have to apply for the approval of the council prior to doing the works. You mustn't start this. There is a specific question on the application forms for prior approval. Has the work been started? If you put a tick in the yes box, they will throw it out and say, we can't deal with this as a prior approval. You then have to go through a world of pain and apply for full planning permission. And lots of these proposals simply will not get full planning permission.
Absolutely. Linda, a phenomenal update once again on the new Class M that applies to laundrettes, betting offices, payday loan shops, and hot food takeaways.
Yep.
Now, I know we've been really excited of late because we've got a video coming up on Class G versus Class MA. Which one should you use? We're also excited because there's been so many viewer questions. There's been so many viewer questions that we have decided to do a viewer questions video. So keep those questions flooding in the comments box below, or drop them to Linda or I on social media or by email. And one breaking news. It's just been announced the new National Planning Policy Framework is out. I see Linda going, oh no. Now this is quite interesting. It is just out. We've only had a very brief look at this monstrous document. And if you're a property developer, you need to take note of this because design aesthetics are now a part of the plan, along with providing trees, yes, trees, and permitted development rights that we've been discussing here in prior approvals. There's a plan there for councils to opt out, and also there's opportunities within there. We'll cover that in a future video. If you smash that subscribe button and the like button, you will be the first person to hear about what the detail is on those new National Planning Policy Framework. We did a video up here that was 12 months ago when it was originally proposed, and it's been in and out of consultation a lot. So breaking news, stay tuned. Linda, once again, it's been fabulous working with you to bring our audience what they describe as an entertaining and educational update that doesn't send them to sleep. So I think that's a brilliant plaudit for you. Well done, you.
Thank you. No, thank you to everybody who's listening to these, and we get lovely feedback, and I get lovely messages and emails saying, oh, you know, it's a really dry and boring subject, and we try and lift it up so that, number one, you'll carry on listening to us and we won't send you to sleep, and number two, it's informative. You get the right information, and you're not going to be looking at properties at auctions saying, I can do this, this and this because somebody else, you know, a bloke down the end of the bar in the pub has told you. No, you get the right stuff so that you can make your choices as property developers and investors. And
Linda is very open to receiving bouquets of flowers,
wine, alcohol, anything. That's absolutely fine.
She really appreciates your thanks, as well as your
gifts from Cartier, Tiffany's, you know.
Yeah. On that note, it's goodbye from me, Andrew Roberts, today.
And it's goodbye from me. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.